Hey guys, so I'm going to be showing you the blooming technique today. As far as I see it, there is kind of two basic ways to do the blooming technique. I think of it kind of as a positive versus a negative, meaning kind of adding or taking away, not as in like good or bad. So what I'm first going to do is show you the technique that I did in my time-lapse video, which you just get a really wet brush and you just kind of make these little cloud actions. Actually, what I'm going to do is put just a little bit of color to see if you guys can see that a little better. I know it's really hard, even for me, and I'm sitting right here. But you just kind of do a cloudy motion, kind of bumpy, up and down, wiggly, waggly, and I swear it's gonna look really pretty in the end. There's something that's really nice about this technique. I'm going to add just a little more water because a little more is definitely better than not enough. But in the end, the technique looks awesome. At first it might not look that great, but trust me, it will. It will in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and use yellow since I use yellow as the background. And you just take, more pigment and you drop it around your painting and it kind of naturally spreads out. I'm going to kind of model it a little bit, blur it up, and then I'll show you a darker color so you can see it a little bit better. I'm gonna go with this kind of hot pink fuchsia color. So see how it blooms like that? Like that is just gorgeous to me. It's so satisfying to watch, it really is. And this technique lends itself really well to all sorts of things. Flowers, obviously. Leaves is another one. You can even do like skies, or if you're doing lettering and you want some sort of background, something like this, the blooming technique, maybe not like this exactly for lettering, but something like this would be awesome. After it's done kind of doing its thing, I like to kind of move it around a little bit, maybe give it, a little more pigment, get a little more pigment on my brush. I'm thinking it's not quite enough. And just keep kind of dabbing until you get what you think is probably what you're looking for. In like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, it's gonna look like the bomb. I'm gonna add a little more pigment down here. My paper is curling because it's a fairly wet technique, and that's pretty normal. It's very normal. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it. I don't wanna mess with it. So I'm gonna let that be. Actually, I'm gonna turn my paper around so I don't smudge my hand in it. We are going to work on some leaves as well. What I like to do is just kind of draw a general shape, right? General kind of leaf shape with a green. And then I take off a lot of the color. I put my brush in the water and then move around the color. So you can see how that gives it kind of that gradient look. And then I'm gonna go back in the water and then add a darker color. So I'm actually gonna add some blue and I'm going to let it bloom as well. So again, you can see it start to bloom, and once it dries, it's gonna look even cooler. It's gonna kind of move around as we talk and do its own thing. Let's do another leaf so this is what we've been doing so far is the addition, I would say, the addition technique, where we have one color and we're adding another color to it, or maybe next to it, and they're blending together. So there's our leaf, and it's wet, but it's not like super wet. And then what I do is I get a clean brush. It's very important. I kind of get off the excess water. This is going to be a little bit drier. Sometimes I might even dab just a little bit on a paper towel. And then you can do little dots like this, right? You could even just kind of zoom it along, and it's also going to kind of subtract that color, right? It's going to make it go away. So that's why I like to refer to it as a positive and negative, rather than adding another color or more of the same color. We're kind of taking away that color, basically. So you can see how it gives this really cool effect. I mean, I just love those little veins right there. That's so cool. Now we are going to do a sky technique, or it can also be used as a background for lettering. Just kind of a more basic, not super busy is probably a better word. It's not basic, but what you'll do is you'll get some blue on your brush or whatever color and move it around the paper. And there's a couple ways to do this. So we can do the negative technique again. Sometimes I wait just a few seconds for it to kind of start drying, really. I'm gonna get a clean brush again and then just kind of zigzag or whatever, diagonal, I guess is a better word. You can also do droplets, and it really gives this neat, cool effect. I mean, it's just so fun to watch it move around. This one is not quite as instant because this is dried more, and that's why. And that's okay. You can just kind of keep adding water, right? And then you can move it around. Now I have a lot of water on my brush. So it's really a pretty technique that's fairly easy. You don't really know what you're gonna get all the time, which is really the beauty of it. I find letting that control go is so nice and frustrating sometimes too. Difficult maybe is the best word. So I'm gonna do another sort of sky, but again, it can be anything really. You could do envelopes with this. You could do the background of like a saying for a nursery or your home, or if you are a scrapbooker, if you like scrapbooking, you could totally do something like this and put your photos on top of this. That would be really nice. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually going to add a color. So this is more the addition than the subtraction. And just let it kind of do its thing for a minute. Add a little more water, and then you can come down here and keep going. Kind of blend a little bit, but I also like it not blended because then you get the blooms, right? And that is what's happening. It's blooming like a flower. The other thing I like to do is sometimes I'll do a combination of both of those techniques. I have my quote-unquote sky, a clean brush that I'm gonna zigzag, or I guess diagonal is a better term. I don't know why I keep calling it zigzag. I could do a zigzag. Boom, zigzag. And then what I like to do is then drop some color in. It just gives a little bit different technique. And sometimes you can't really tell right away the difference. But as it dries, you will see the subtle difference. And you can see it's more of a, right, it's more of a pure yellow. as over here it's kind of a greeny yellow because they were blended together more. You could do this with flowers. You could do something like a very simple kind of, I don't even know what this flower would be, kind of like a Johnny Jump Up, I think they're called. But obviously these aren't really Johnny Jump Up colors if you're familiar with that flower, but kind of a basic flower here. And then in the middle, add your color. And I think that's just to die for. I think it's so beautiful. So the technique I was talking about where you can just take clear water, or, well, water is clear, right? But just take clean water, I should say, and get your page wet. Now I'm using the same brush because I'm just getting a small area wet. But if you're getting the whole page wet, definitely use like the biggest brush you can get. And then you can just okay, so the last technique is pretty fun. So I painted a big area here. I'm gonna let it kind of dry for a little minute. Spray bottle, just a little guide. And then we're gonna spray it. Amazing. It's so cool, right? So that is pretty much it for my techniques today. Here is the flower that we did at the very beginning. I mean, just look at that. It looks like it's on fire almost. That is just the beauty of watercolor. You do it and then you let it dry. In fact, usually I go to sleep and let it sit overnight. And then when I wake up in the morning and I look at it, it looks amazing. Like, it looks so much better than it did the night before. So you can see as it dries, I mean, this isn't completely dry, but it's not gonna get any different than this, or not much really. You can see it's just gorgeous, the techniques you can get. This one's still really wet. Can't even stand it. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.